Hey Amarillo, I'm Jason Boyette, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. As part of this podcast partnership with Brick and Elm Magazine, I want to give a podcast shout out to Park Central Community, Avant Garden, and Plains Land Bank. The January-February issue of Brick and Elm is out now. It features the amazing winners of our first ever Brickley Awards. We're honoring these winners at an awards ceremony event on February 4th, so look for those tickets and read the issue at brickandelm.com. I'd love to see you there. Today's guest is Tony Ensor, the president and general manager of the Amarillo Sod Poodles. And longtime listeners of Hey Amarillo will remember that I've interviewed Tony before. That was early in the show. It was the June 4th, 2018 episode, and it took place over the phone. That was when the team had just unveiled the 5 finalist names, and everyone in Amarillo was up in arms about it, including me. I mean, I pushed back pretty hard on Tony in that interview, and it quickly became the most listened to episode in the first year of Hey Amarillo. And no hesitation here on my part. I was wrong. I didn't get it. And in the years since, the Sod Poodles have been enormously successful. Not just the name of the team and the attention it gets, but the entire organization was named Minor League Baseball Organization of the Year in 2023. The team won the Texas League Championships in 2019, and then again in 2023, and then also in 2023, they won the Minor League Baseball Top Team Name vote by subscribers of The Athletic. So Tony knew what he was doing. And so I wanted to have him back on the show to talk about that moment and to talk about the success that he's seen since then and almost 7 years later, how he thinks about Amarillo. Here's Tony Ensor. Tony Ensor, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast. Thanks for being here.
Jason, it is a pleasure and an honor to be on this podcast.
I can say it's an honor to have you in the studio. This is your second time to be on the podcast, and we can talk about the first time once we get to that point. But I want to start with you the same way I start with all my guests, and that's just to ask you why you're here in Amarillo. And that's a big part of the reason that you're here talking to me now. So tell me the story about you showing up here.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into the full length of my career because it kind of guides you in a sense.
It does guide us. Okay, so let's start this way. Tell me how you got into baseball and then how baseball took you here.
Well, I can try to make a long story short, although my staff will tell you that's not really my forte, is I can make a short story long really well. But, I've been in baseball since I was 6 years old. I have not missed a year in baseball since I was 6, whether it was playing, Little League, high school, college. Then, I was just a young guy looking for a purpose, what I was trying to do with my life. And I just got on with the Chattanooga Lookouts, as I think we talked about this maybe in our interview 7 years ago. But I got on as the fourth man on the grounds crew. My GM and the head groundskeeper at the time got into it, I guess, one day, and he looked at the other 3 guys that were on the crew, and he named me as the head groundskeeper, somebody who had no experience. I just had a strong work ethic, and I was a big kid, so there wasn't a whole lot I couldn't handle. So I was in Chattanooga for about 5 years, and then I had a career path there was a fork in the road, if you would. So I could go left and go into groundskeeping, and I was up for the Atlanta Braves head groundskeeping job. I really didn't deserve it. I just, I had a good reputation because of the way I worked, but I would have probably failed miserably when you get to that level. But then I had one job offer in Birmingham to go into the front office and be in stadium operations and run a ballpark that way. And so I took that. And I just kind of fell in love with, the people in the game, the players, the fans, and just the experience that we create in minor league baseball. And so I was in Birmingham for 13 or so years and ended up running it for the last 7. And then my owner asked me to go to Colorado Springs, which he owned both franchises, Birmingham and Colorado Springs. And he asked me to go to Colorado Springs and fix a broken franchise. And I was there for another 13 years and was able to turn that around. And we had a very successful time in Colorado Springs. But then at that point, and it was funny because I got word in, I think it was 2017, or maybe late off season of 2016, about a council meeting where they were discussing my team in Colorado Springs down here in Amarillo, I can't remember the exact time, but I was like, oh my gosh. And that started causing some media issues there, like, is the team going somewhere and all that sort of thing. And we're like, I didn't know anything about it at the time. But then DG Elmore and Dave Elmore asked me, I think it was 2017, to make a decision. Do you want to come to Amarillo and leave Colorado Springs, which I'd been there for 13 years, as I mentioned, and build something from scratch, build something from new? And I didn't know a whole lot about Amarillo, other than what everyone does when they're looking at to go to a new place. And I paid some visits here, met some great people, and I decided this is where I wanted to go. And I wanted to do something that I had never done before.
Right. Which is start from the beginning with the team. You're not rehabilitating a team.
Yeah, I wasn't rehabilitating or taking over a team. My team in Birmingham was successful. I had a great president and Bill Hardikoff, but I just wanted to do something that I'd never done before, and that was start from scratch. And it was an amazing journey. I mean, you were part of that journey back in 2018?
Yeah, I think so.
But it was just an opportunity that I just couldn't turn down. And it's been a dream. When you look back on something that you start from scratch, something that we didn't have a building. I didn't have any employees. I didn't have a major league affiliate. I didn't have a brand. I didn't have a logo. We opened an office over there in the facilities building over on Johnson Street, and for about 4 or 5 of us, and then it grew to 6 or 7, 8 to 10, 10 to 20, 30, 35 people. At one point, we were kind of sitting on top of each other because it was a very small space. But
yeah, this was before the ballpark was finished.
Before the ballpark, yeah, we would walk people over to discuss partnerships and season tickets and everything else. But you look back on that time. Maybe I'm getting older now, and I'm starting to look back, Jason. But I look back and I say, boy, if we'd have done this, it'd have been great. Or could we have done that? Or could we have done something better? And I look back and I told the staff, the staff that was there and the staff that's currently here, and a lot of them are still here. I don't think we missed on much. I can honestly look back and say, man, there's a couple small tweaks I would make, but I don't think we missed a whole lot. And when we opened this thing up and the way we came into Amarillo and told Amarillo that we're not doing this for us, and we're doing it for you, because I knew the stakes. I knew how important this vote had been and how close it was. And I know there was a lot of debate on both sides, pro and con. And I just got that sense from the people I met and literally everyone. So we knew how important it was. And we knew you only get one chance to make a first impression, right? That's the old adage. But I think we did it the right way. And we've not changed that approach. I mean, everything we do is not for us. I've been in the hiring mode of late because I hire different people from around the country. Every year.
There's a lot of transition in your job.
Transition. I mean, there's so many young people in our industry, and of course, I'm one of them. Don't laugh too hard. But, the goal for minor league executives is not to necessarily stay in one place, because when they go, they elevate. They come to Amarillo, they have a lot of success, and they learn our processes and our procedures, and they go on to the next level. So, we go through a lot of people, but I tell every single person I hire, there's 4 things you need to be successful here in Amarillo. And I really don't think it's just necessarily in Amarillo. I think it really in life you could be this. So, and I'll tell them to you. So one is you have to have a servant's heart. Everything you approach, the way you do your business, the way you handle your life, the way you communicate with fans or season ticket holders or partners or whatever, you have to have a servant's heart, meaning the person in front of you is more important than you are. And I don't mean none of us are important at the sod poodles, but I think that's the way you approach it. You have to be willing to serve other people. Okay. Because that's the industry we're in. We're in the service, experience business, and I'd love to say I'm the greatest baseball GM in the world, but the Diamondbacks and Padres before them, they have coaches, they have strength guys, they have physical therapists, they have sports psychologists, they've got coaching, pitching coaching, hitting coaches, they've got all the baseball stuff covered. Yes, I assist in some of that, but on a very small scale. I tell people all the time, I suggest things to our managers and coaches and farm directors and of the Diamondbacks all the time. They rarely listen to me, and rightfully so, because they're paid big bucks to make those decisions. I'm just a fan. I'm a guy that has been around the game for a long time, and I can see the ones that are going to be successful because of their mentality and the approach they take on the field, and the ones that won't be. And I just have that, I've got that experience. So one is working with a servant's heart. Two, you have to have a really strong work ethic. Because our business is tough, especially for young kids coming out of college, and maybe it's not their first job, but it's their first real job.
Right.
Where they've got a compensation package and everything else. But to tell them, hey, look, we don't decide our schedule during the baseball season. Major League Baseball does. They put our schedule together. We may work 6 days in a row. We may work 15 days in a row, 12 to 14 hours a day. And getting young people to dive into that is, and I tell them in advance, look, this is going to be the hardest job you've ever had. You're going to work more hours than you've ever worked in your life. And if it's right for you, you're going to love it. If it's not right for you, that's okay. We can go on, move on to the next thing. So having a really strong work ethic and understanding, what the game demands. It's not something Tony Ensor says we got to do this. The game itself demands commitment and that time. Baseball's still the only game in all of organized sport that has no clock on it.
Yeah.
Even though we have a pitch clock, it's not a game clock.
Yeah.
So the third thing would be integrity. Everything you do, every discussion you have when you're working with a partner, it has to be from a sense of integrity. We're all going to make mistakes. We're human. That's just the nature of being a human, is we're going to make mistakes. But when you do, you own it. And you say, if you were my employee and Jason, you were supposed to get me something on Tuesday and you didn't get it done and it's Wednesday or Thursday, then you come and say, Tony, I own that. I meant to get that to you on Tuesday. I made a mistake. I'll get it to you the first thing on this day. But you own it. And the same thing with our partners, our season ticket holders, our relationships with players and coaches and umpires and league officials all over the place. Just work from a sense of integrity. That helps you in every decision you make, knowing that if you have that mindset, by and large, you're going to make good choices. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're going to make mistakes, but when you do, you own it. And finally, you have to have passion for our industry and passion for those other things, integrity, work ethic, and working with a servant's heart. If you do that, I didn't invent this. This is, I think that works in any business, in any part of your life, those four things. But it's important here because that's what our community demands. And that's the way we came in. Mm-hmm. And that's the way we're going to stay as long as I'm steering that boat.
Okay, so you talked about the first impressions, and that was kind of the first time we talked, because there was a big public, and controversy is probably too strong of a word. There was a lot of drama about the names, the list of options, of which the Sod Poodles was the finalist or the selected name, and so we talked about that at a period where a lot of people were upset about the choices, didn't think it fully matched the area. Still one of my most popular podcast episodes. It was pretty early after I launched this one. And then it's fun to look back at that period. Like you said then, you said trust the process. And like we've seen the Sod Poodles turn into a really successful organization. Everybody in town loves the organization. It's been a net good for the city, and it's interesting to look back at all that drama and just like, well, that we should have just listened to you guys because you knew minor league baseball, and we didn't know you at all. And I think that was part of us butting heads. I want you to talk about that period and kind of what it was like coming in fresh, meeting local people when people didn't like the name choices, and then kind of starting from that point and having to prove yourself over and over again to the community.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Was it a tough period when you're coming in and you want to do things great for the community? I know what I'm capable of. I know what our team was capable of. So I know all these things, but you guys didn't know.
Yeah.
You didn't know me. You didn't know our staff. You didn't know the experience we had in the room of baseball executives that have nothing but passion for success. And success does not necessarily mean wins and losses on the field because we can't control that. No one can really.
Oh, we didn't know the culture of minor league baseball either.
No.
We knew the culture of Amarillo.
Yes.
And that's where I think some of the conflict came from.
Well, absolutely. But when I look back on it, it was a tough period. And you want people to agree with you and you want to share a vision with them and have them buy into it. But it was more of a struggle, whereas it was a tough period, but it was also an amazing period because we had to work to convince people, to persuade people to where people would have confidence in us. And I had so many people grow from that. So on my staff, because you don't get to encounter that all the time. I mean, rarely in a career do you get to encounter that type of pushback on a brand, on a name that you want to bring in. And so, yes, I knew minor league baseball. I knew the possibilities that we had. And I've even said it on there. And when it was funny because you and I were talking, when I asked you to trust the process, because you remember that was a big thing. Even I think people made T-shirts.
A lot of people in athletics like to talk about that process.
Trust the process. I guess probably what I was really saying, and I'm glad I didn't say it then because it probably would have run me out of town. But what I was looking for is people to trust me, and because I had nothing but, and that's what I was trying to get across in that podcast was. I had nothing but the best intentions. I know what we were trying to do. I knew what was in our hearts. I knew what was in our minds. I knew the process and the plan that we were putting together, and I just felt I knew that it was going to be successful. But I don't blame anyone for questioning that because that was a big risk for Amarillo. You know, spending $45.5 million to build a brand new stadium, to create a quality, to add to the quality of life. And
that was controversial before we had a team attached to it.
And that's what you and I talked about. I knew some of those things prior to coming here, so I knew what was at stake. And I knew how important it was to the people of Amarillo. And so it was just a period I think you had to go through. And I think it made our brand stronger. Because something if it's easy, it's probably not going to be memorable and worth a lot. If it's difficult and you have to go through a struggle to create it, to make it, to nurture it, that's when you have something really special.
You have to earn it.
Yeah, you earned it. And I think that podcast, the 7,000 online signatures to change the name, the calls I got from the Texas League president, from our founding partners, from my owners, from all those people, it was part of a process, I think, that has made us one of the strongest, most well-known brands in all of minor league baseball.
I think that's true. I want to know from you, because that was your first introduction to Amarillo and Amarillo people. Maybe aside from the business aspect of it, the branding aspect of it, like did it teach you something about the character or the culture or the people here who were going to be your fans that we didn't just roll over and say, okay, do whatever you want. We trust the professionals.
I totally agree with that. I tell people to this day, when I talk to people that I'm trying to hire from I hire people from California, from Florida. I just hired a young man from Florida. Another man from I'm talking to today, actually, from Washington, the state of Washington, to New York, to Boston. They're all over the place. And I tell people all the time, and this is something I learned, and I think you can look back and probably hear me do interviews about this after the first 3 months, 4 months of maybe 6 months of being here. We don't have the mountains of Colorado. If you want the mountains of Colorado, you drive up 287 and you enjoy the mountains. We don't have the big cities of New York and Boston, Atlanta, Dallas. That's not who we are. We don't have the oceans of California. And those are all great natural resources. But our best natural resource, and I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart, the best natural resource we have here in Amarillo, being on the plains and the wind and the dust, but the best natural resource we have are the people. And that's what I learned in those first 6 months. Because I tell guys that, look, Amarillo, we as Amarillans, we have a little chip on our shoulder. And I actually love that because I've had a chip on my shoulder my whole life. So for me, it was easy to kind of come in and indoctrinate myself into that and to understand it and to feel that chip, because we're out here on the plains. Still to this day, maybe you can explain to me how Dallas is called North Texas. I don't get it. We are 5.5 hours north and west of Dallas, but yet they're North Texas. But I tell people, look, Amarillo's been on its own for 150 years. They've had to rely on each other. We've had to rely on our families, our neighbors, and everything. All the big money goes to the Dallases and the San Antonios and Austins and Houstons, and I get it. That's life. That's the world. But Amarillo's had to fight for everything that it's had. So when you came to Amarillo and you're new and you're bringing something in, and I heard the Krispy Kreme stories and all those things from the past, you gotta have to fight for it. And we fought and we fought and we communicated. And every time the podcast came out and there was that, I don't want to say disagreement, but that education we all went through. When Chick-fil-A put up, chicken tastes better than sod poodles. When the First Baptist pastor did a sermon on sod poodles. When Dean Boyd did a comical ad on Pink Poodle that was making fun of our brand, we pushed all that. And when Carson Levitt
wrote the song.
I mean, we pushed that because that was the community telling us things. And we heard that. And sometimes we laughed with it. Sometimes we cried with it. Sometimes we said, this is awesome. We got to get this out. We got to push it. Because all those things shaped this organization, shaped our people, shaped the brand, educated our community, and we all kind of, originally 10% of the people might have liked sod poodles. And then it was 15. And then people were making cookies, logos at the market and wooden signs. And I even have one to this day that I have in my backyard of a sign I picked up at the downtown market. But it was not really us. It was Amarillo that shaped the brand with all the things that they were doing, poking fun at it, being serious with it, having fun with it, stressing over it. Amarillo created the brand. I mean, it was such a fun thing to go through. Yes, it was stressful. At the time, in certain times, it was really stressful. Other times, it was just glorious. But, again, if it were easy, everybody would do it. Mm-hmm. But the struggle is what creates the memories and all the great things that have come out of it.
I want to hear from you about what you think are some of the biggest successes of the team. I mean, obviously, you're wearing a championship ring. Let's take that off the table because
I love championships.
Wins and losses, those are amazing. Everybody knows those are amazing. But those are very obvious to me. What are the things that you're proud of that maybe are less obvious to just somebody who goes to the game and watches the team win?
Well, when we talked about when we launched in 2019, it was one of the most successful, I think to this day, maybe the most successful launch of a minor league team in minor league baseball history. El Paso, that's right up there too. El Paso and Lehigh Valley and Rocket City, Trash Pandas, they're all amazing. So I'd put us all in that same group. But, it was such a great launch because remember in 2019, we won literally every accolade in baseball, in our industry. From the building, the best building with a population of over 50,000 people to Player of the Year, Organization of the Year, Team of the Year, Baseball America naming Amarillo Team of the Year, to obviously a Texas League championship, but Texas League Executive of the Year, literally everything, mascot, best mascot, best stadium, best brand. And I think when we won best brand, it was like in early to mid-March. That's when it started to turn. When all of a sudden the nation said the Amarillo Sod Poodles is the best brand in all minor league baseball, that's when people started to go, wait a minute, maybe this is pretty cool. Yeah. Nationally, we were being recognized. Amarillo was being recognized. So, but that's the opener, right? That's that honeymoon phase. That's the storybook season that we had. But since then, we've continued to be a national brand where Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, the nation is recognizing Amarillo. I don't know if you noticed, but since we opened up in 2019, we're the number one season ticket holder base in the nation.
Okay.
And that means we have more season ticket holders than any other team in the nation. That's 210,000 person Amarillo. You're going up against, when you're kind of comparing yourself to other markets of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million people in Las Vegas and Charlotte and Nashville and Indianapolis, Toledo, massive Dallas, massive markets, and yet Amarillo's number one in season ticket sales? How is that possible? I still don't get it.
Okay.
That's the community saying, this is our team. We're going to make it successful no matter what. We're going to support this team because they bought in. And they said, this is our team. Tony, you're a great caretaker. You and your staff, you're doing a great job of caretaking, but this is our team now. And so we responded to that. And we've been the number one season ticket holder team since we opened in 2019, still to this day. That's incredible. That's not possible. That is just not possible when you're comparing market sizes. But it happened. Mm-hmm. When you talk about successes, I think you need to talk about the people. I think you need to talk about the staff, because we don't ever rest and say, okay, we're good. Let's just rinse and repeat from the year before. You can't do that. That's not how I'm made. That's not how my team is made.
We're recording this in the off season, and you've been as busy as anybody else I know.
You know, it just never ends, and it never ends because there's always opportunities. If you're seeking opportunities, you will find them. If you're waiting for opportunities to come to you, they won't happen. So we're constantly seeking opportunities. In 2020, when COVID hit, this is a prime example. And to this day, this is one of the things I'm most proud about. Is I got the sense that Major League Baseball was not going to allow minor leagues to play because of COVID. Remember, it was just a crazy time. We were all in our basements, sanitizing our pets and our mail as it came into us. It was just a weird period. But I had a sense in mid-March when COVID came out and Major League Baseball still deciding on the fate of playing in the minors. And I just said, I just don't feel good about this. And so we started reaching out to the Texas Collegiate League. Mm-hmm. We joined the Texas Collegiate League, myself, and I got a buddy of mine in San Antonio, Burl Yarborough. We got a collection of 5 other teams to join this college woodbat league. The whole purpose of it, I had 3 things I wanted to do. One is I didn't want to furlough my staff. I didn't want to fire my staff, because if we don't have anything going on at the stadium, I don't need people. The stadium doesn't need me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to take care of my staff. 2, I wanted our community to have a sense of normalcy, because remember how it was just a crazy period all around the country. But I knew because our governor in Texas was going to be a little bit more wide open that we had an opportunity. So we joined with this Collegiate Woodbat League. I asked them, their president, I said, would you be interested in expanding for a year, maybe 2? And he said, heck yeah, because that meant, this is a small league that plays in South Texas, that plays in community parks or old JUCO fields or something like that. Talented players, but they don't get to play in great facilities.
Right.
So I brought Amarillo, Tulsa, San Antonio, Frisco, and Round Rock in. And that was 5 teams joining with 4 teams existing, because it was a little bit of an imbalance with travel schedule and wins and divisions and everything else. I bought in with 2 teams. We actually had to buy in to this league. So we bought in with 2 teams. So what that meant was on the day, and this is still one of the neatest days I can, if you call COVID, period neat.
If anything was neat during that period.
Yeah. Anything positive was neat. But on the day that Major League Baseball announced that there would be no minor league baseball season, we announced about 2 hours later in the afternoon that we'd be playing in the Texas Collegiate League. There would be 30 games played at Hodgetown from around June until August 6th. And so I didn't have to furlough a single employee, which was amazing. Most teams around the country furloughed or released 75% to 95% of their staff. On a lot of teams, the only guy left was the GM or the president in my role. So they had to furlough their staff. Our community got to come outside. It turned out, and we worked with the health department here in Amarillo to develop a plan, and with our partners at Major League Baseball to follow all the protocols. We hydrostatically cleaned the ballpark. We wore masks at the stadium. We socially distanced. We put up the sneeze guards at places where there were groups gathering. So we did all those things. And at the end of it, we ended up drawing between the baseball games, we averaged 2,500 people a game during the heat of COVID.
That's pretty incredible.
We had 4 concerts at the stadium. We drew 80,000 people to the ballpark that year. And the health department said not one case of COVID could be traced back to an event at Hodgetown. They said we were the standard bearer on how you should have handled, and this was post-fact, of course, but and we were reacting. We were creating. We were, I like to say we were like water. We're trying to find, water's the most powerful force on the earth. It'll find its destination somehow, some way. It may not be pretty getting along to get into that destination, but it will get there. I want you to think back at how powerful that was. And we didn't thump our chest a lot, because we knew that the social media, the internet, and everything else would try to shut us down. So we just did what we did, that panhandle way. You were given lemons, so we made lemonade. And so I want you to think about the 80,000 people in the heat of COVID in 2020. Can you name anywhere else in the world that drew that many people to a event-based facility.
Yeah.
Because remember, Major League Baseball, they had the cardboard cutout
fans. Yeah, the fans and the, right.
I actually looked into that for a while, but I'm just glad I
Well, the
decided
NBA
not.
games against, just this black background where you don't see anything.
So that to me is where we said, look, just going along with the crowd is not going to work. Because we had things, I wanted those players to be able to play, those college kids to continue their career. I want our community to have a sense of normalcy, and I did not want to let go of my team, my staff.
You didn't want to lose momentum because you'd had a great season,
launch,
and then all of a sudden it just kind of shuts down. And so
I'll tell you a great byproduct of that, and I wish I could say I was this smart, but I'm really not. So we didn't lay off any of our employees in 20. We played and we worked. We were in the office. We really worked hard. In 21, Major League Baseball still didn't know in March whether or not we were going to be playing. So they decided sometime late in March to throw the switch. I think it was April 1st they announced that we're going to be playing. Throw the switch up, lights are on. Major League Baseball gets out messages and memos to all the teams saying, hey, we're going to play in 21. It's going to be a reduced season. We're going to start a little bit later, 60 games, 120 games in total, 60 at home, 60 on the road. But we are going to play. And there's going to be restrictions on crowd sizes and everything else. And so I was like, okay, great. And I didn't realize this till after that season, but most of the other teams around the country had furloughed their staffs, had let people go, had terminated some people. We had our full staff.
So they weren't equipped really to jump.
They were ready. We'd been working the whole time. So when other teams would call back and say, hey, come on back, kid, Major League Baseball says we're going to play. And the kid would say, dude, I left 4 months ago. I live back at home with my parents, or I got another job, or this or that or the other. And we were ready to go. We had an amazing 21 season where a lot of teams struggled in 21 because they were either working with a half staff or a very green staff.
Okay.
And so I think, trying to work from a point of integrity and doing the best you can for your community and your people, that paid dividends for us. And so to me, that's a very proud moment that we have that we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. I want to close this section and ask you about the players, because what's interesting to me about the players is obviously there's a lot of transition. They're coming on the team. They're being moved up and down the ladder. A lot of them, all of them, don't know Amarillo, and they're coming here and they are, performing in a stadium in Amarillo for Amarillo people, and it's new to them. I wonder what the players think about this area from the conversations you've had with them, and I know you've had them. What's their perspective of being here, having a season here, playing in front of the fans at Hodgetown?
It's interesting because the players do know about Amarillo before they get here, because they spend 6 weeks together in spring training.
Okay.
And so Amarillo has a reputation of a great place to come play baseball. They know that from an organizational standpoint, they're going to be taken care of because we're very good at that. We take very good care of our players. Our role is to make the players stay in Amarillo as seamless and as easy for them as possible, to take care of all their needs so that all they need to focus on is what happens in between those two white lines, first and third base side, because that's what they're here for. They're not here to end their career in Amarillo. They don't want that. They're here to use that Amarillo experience to get them to the next level, which is AAA, or, as in the case of last year, going directly up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
So, but they talk in spring training, and they talk all the time. They know how rabid our fans are. Our fans they're very understanding. Just last year, 24 was not our best on-field product that we put out there. We had great players, but culturally, it just didn't fit. Some things just didn't work, and so we didn't have the best season we've had on the field, X's and O's, wins and losses. But it was a great group of guys to be around. They really enjoyed it, but they love the experience. They know when they come to Amarillo that they're coming and playing in front of baseball fans.
Okay.
And that's important. They're not just coming for the fireworks or this, that, and the other. Our fans know the game. In most places, I've said this throughout my career, on average, because what we try to create is an experience at Hodgetown and all the other operations I've run. Because again, I don't control baseball. I can't guarantee you we're going to win. And Major League Baseball, if you win, you're going to draw. In the minors, winning and losing are not as important in most markets. It is important here. But our fans understand they understand minor league baseball now.
Well, if your players are really, really good, they're not going to be there.
They're not
going to
be here long, right?
Yeah.
And they understand that, and they see them getting promoted to AAA Reno or going up to the Diamondbacks. Currently, right now, I think we have 12 former Sod Poodle players on the Arizona Diamondbacks roster, and that's incredible.
Yeah,
and that's what our fans get to experience. So they understand now the movement because we'll probably have 70 players, even though we have a 26-man roster. We'll probably have 70 different players come in 2025. So they get the movement, but at the same time, they understand good baseball, and they want to see good baseball. No, we can't win every day, but, man, we better compete. And there were times last year where we didn't compete very well. When the game was out of hand in the fifth inning, and we just didn't. And that's the only side of things when I say the players, they love coming here and they know that they're going to be successful because this is a great ballpark, great facilities, great training facilities. They have everything they need to be successful. At that point, it's just up to them. And when they can do it in front of people that care about them, our fans look at these players not as, hey, there's Tim Tawa. It's like it's their family. Mm-hmm. That's their cousin or their nephew or their son. That's how passionate our fans are about these players, and the players feel that. So when we've won, and I have to temper people this all the time, we've won 2 championships. Prior to last year, we won 2 championships in 4 seasons. Jason, that's not normal.
No, that's pretty good.
That's weird, in fact. In my other operations, in Chattanooga, it was 35 years between championships.
Wow.
In Birmingham, it was like 15 years between championships. In Colorado Springs, they still haven't won a championship, so it's going on 40 years. Here, we won 2 in 4 years. And what is it because we just have the greatest players? Yeah, we've had great players. But you know what? A lot of teams have great players. But when our team comes, and this was so striking, when our team comes and they go to another city and play in a playoff game, and there's 1,500 to 2,000 people there, and yes, the people that's your hardcore fans, but they're into it and everything else. But when they come back to Hodgetown after playing on the road in that playoff game, and they know they're going to be 6,000 people here screaming for them, these guys are professionals. They deal with X's and O's. Their job is to get to the next level of the big leagues, and they get that. They're professionals. But at the same time, they're young men, and they feel that intensity. They feel the energy from our fans. So I know it's been tagged before, but we do have the 10th man in the crowd. They are there. They are real, and that does drive the players. I don't care how professional and how business-like you approach your daily work in baseball. You can't help but feel that passion from the fans, and that takes you to another level. That's why we've won 2 championships.
This episode of Hey Amarillo is supported by StoryBridge, an early childhood literacy program. And here's a stat for you. Kids who grow up in homes with more than 20 books will receive an average of 3 years more education compared to those who grow up in homes without books. But in the Amarillo area, only 1 in 5 children hits that number. Only 1 in 5 owns more than 20 books at home. So that means a lot of kids are entering school without any kind of foundation for learning how to read. Well, StoryBridge is working to change that. Since this organization launched, it has distributed more than 650,000 age-appropriate books to local kids. It uses the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program to provide a book in the mail every month to 8,500 local kids, all under the age of 5. And it takes your donations to keep all of this going. So to give or get involved, visit storybridgeama.org. That's storybridgeama.org. Okay, I'm back with Tony Ensor of the Sod Poodles. Tony, this is the part of the show I call 8 Straight. 8 Straight is sponsored every week by Panhandle Plains Historical Museum in Canyon. It's the largest history museum in Texas, and its collection includes an artillery foot soldier sword from 1832 that was likely used in mid-19th century conflicts in the United States. And this was a time when firearms were becoming more common in combat, but people still carried swords. Soldiers still had swords for close condition fighting. Not quite like a bat, but it's close enough. So you can see that and learn more at panhandleplains.org. Okay, when you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
Well, before I say that, I just recently went to the Panhandle Plains Museum.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I mean, what a great space. What an elegant space, and the history that's in there. I was blown away. I have a path beaten from the stadium to my house to the airport, because of what I do. But so every once in a while, I get to go out and go to the event, and I think it was a advertising federation dinner or something like that. And I got to go there, and I was blown away at how beautiful that place is.
30 or 40 years from now, I can envision an exhibit about the sod poodles and telling the story of them coming to Amarillo, like uniforms, all that kind of stuff.
Can I get a wax figure? Something.
I'll talk to the folks I know there.
I don't know if they have enough wax, but so I'm sorry. Your question.
Yeah. So Amarillo. When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
Well, really, what I hope to see is a continued growth. I really like the direction. From a business person, I want more people in Amarillo. I want us to grow responsibly. I want us to grow intentionally and purposefully. So we have the resources from highways to the retail to the infrastructure of our sewers and our water treatment and everything else. I want us to have all those, and I think there's a push to go that direction. But I think, I'll be honest with you, I think Amarillo has such a great opportunity in the next 10 years to grow by 3%, 4%, 5%. If we grew up by another 50 to 7,500,000 people, I think it would be amazing for Amarillo. It's a great place right now. It's a great place to raise your family. There's plenty of things to do and places to eat, and with now Hodgetown there for concerts and baseball games and all the events we do, it's a great place. But I think there's more on the horizon for us that would add to the quality of life for our citizens. And again, responsible growth. You don't want to be like some of these places that just blow up and there's not enough housing or apartments or anything. But I think some responsible growth with new jobs coming in, high-income jobs coming in, which will give our community a higher average medium income. I think that's good for everybody. And I think we're poised. We've got the land. We've got brilliant people here. We've got people that know how to push in the right direction. And we've got a workforce that's ready to go. And so I think more people coming in, higher end jobs, and I really see a very, very positive future in 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. I don't think it's going to stop. But again, I don't want to see it get overly big.
It needs to be a gradual
It needs
increase.
to still stay Amarillo.
Yeah.
We don't want to be Austin. We don't want to be San Antonio or Dallas or Houston. We want to be Amarillo, but do it our own way. You take that chip on the shoulder attitude that I said we have, and you add a new industry and everything to it, I think it could be really, really great for Amarillo.
Okay, other than wind, which I know can make a baseball game fun or really terrible, depending on the direction. But other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
So wind in the winter and the dirt, the dust that flies around, that to me is problematic, especially at the ballpark. When you're trying to clean a ballpark, your staff comes in and cleans at 7:00 in the morning, and by the time it's 5:00, there's a new layer of dust on your seats and tables.
And you're open to the north, like the north wind, the fronts from Canada, like those are really wreaking havoc.
But I will tell you this, wind in the winter is problematic, and that's when we've had our freezes, our pipes, and everything else. But when you got that light breeze, 10 to 15 miles an hour during the summer, it's 98 to 100 degrees. And the sun is setting, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Having that little breeze. Mm-hmm. Yes, Major League Baseball doesn't like it because they don't like things that alter the game, such as wind, such as elevation, aridness. That's why we store all of our baseballs in a humidor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that, yeah.
Let's say this. I don't like the wind in the winter.
Okay.
I love the wind in the summer.
All right. What does this area not have enough of?
I think growth. I want to see us grow more.
Okay.
Like I said, from a business perspective, because the more people that are in, the more sod poodle fans there are. And I like that. I want people to be exposed to our product because it's a good product. It's a healthy product. It's a place where you can go and kind of forget your stresses of the day. When you go through that gate, I wish I could do some kind of Star Wars thing where there was some kind of shield when you went through this light thing that you forgot all the stresses of the day. Come in and enjoy the game, spend time with your kids, spend time with your family, create memories. That's what we as, I'm going to look back on my parents and say, the things that we did that mattered to me was the time spent together. Mm-hmm. And that's what we offer in the game because it's not an up and down sport. There's plenty of time in our game, 2.5 hour, 3 hour on average game to be able to create memories and share time and have conversations with your family. So I love more people coming in, and from a perspective of a consumer, I like more choices.
Okay.
So I think there's nothing that we have to have, but I think more people getting to come in and become like Amarillans, I think that will make their lives better.
Okay, you've been here 7 years now, so what's your favorite local neighborhood?
Oh, I have to say the Wolfland area. I mean, that's where I live, and it's so beautiful with the red bricks roads, and now some of the older trees, they're beautiful. Maybe not right now because my yard is full of leaves right now.
They're empty at the moment.
But I just enjoy that kind of old Texas feel to it. Beautiful trees, the streets, and the way people decorate in Amarillo, whether it be the colonies or the greenways or over off of Bell or Wolfland. People get into the holidays here, and I love that. Whether it's Halloween, I get a couple thousand people. I still haven't found a way to have
Wolfland's a fun place on Halloween.
To Christmas, it's just people get into it, and that just says a lot about the people.
Okay, what's your favorite local restaurant?
It's new. I've got two. One is Macaroni Joe's.
Okay.
That has been the favorite since I've been here. Really enjoy it. But I've got a new one that I'm really enjoyed. I've had a couple dinners there, luncheons, cocktails, and at Cellar 55.
Okay, yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
It is.
It's very well done. The people, their servers are fantastic. The food is amazing. So I'd have to say right now Cellar 55.
That's a good one. All right. What's your favorite local nonprofit?
The group that we started with immediately, and it's still my favorite, is ADVO.
All right.
They work with kids and adults with disabilities or challenges, and they try to put them in situations where they still have a high quality of life by working. They put them in different places around the community, and ADVO started out as our cleaning company and our ombudsman during the game, where they would go and make sure that the stadium counters were wiped off and that the restrooms were picked up and clean. And they were so good. It's the best cleaning crew I've ever had in 35 years.
Yeah.
Because their attention to detail is second to none. And we've since done a lot of things with ADVO from a charitable standpoint, and we just enjoy the people over there.
Yeah, I love that organization because it gives the dignity of work to people who might not have had that opportunity. And what you do find is that, yes, these are individuals who have special needs, but they will work hard and they will do a great job. And it's always fun. And I appreciate that about going to Hodgetown to look out and see somebody, who's out there.
They're special employees.
Enjoying themselves as they do that work.
They're better ambassadors for our product than anyone in the community. So they're just great kids and great young adults too.
What's the most underrated aspect of living here in Amarillo?
Like I said before, we don't have these beautiful rivers. I mean, we have Palo Canyon, which I really love. I think Palo Canyon is just gorgeous, and it gives you a chance to kind of get out of the world and just go have some peace, for a time. And I've loved nature since I was a kid, so I love going to Palo Canyon. But the thing I think we're most underestimated on is because we don't have these great natural resources of buildings and rivers and trees and we're on the plains and the dust and the wind that we've talked about. But I wouldn't trade our people for anything. Like I said, I've told you those people. I said, we don't have all those things, the rivers, the oceans, the mountains, and everything else, but I would rather live and work every single day with people I enjoy, people I care about. If I want to go to the beach, I'll get on a plane. If I want to go to Dallas, I'll drive down to Dallas or go to the mountains in Colorado or go to New York, I'll get on a plane. But every day, I've lived in some of the most, Colorado Springs is one of the most beautiful places on earth. But when you're working all the time, you don't get to enjoy it as much. Now, if I go to Colorado Springs, I get to really enjoy the majesty of the mountains, and they're beautiful, or the oceans. I get to relax. But man, I'd rather be around people every day that I enjoy. Just getting on the phone or talking to someone when they come to the ballpark, that to me is quality of life that you just can't replace.
Okay, and to cite another big attraction in Amarillo, when was the last time you visited the Big Texan?
Oh gosh, actually, it wasn't that long ago. My wife, who's Canadian, Lynn, she's also the director of merchandise for the Sod Poodles. She happens to be my beautiful wife, and I'm so blessed. She also just happens to be one of the best merchandise directors in the country.
Okay.
Her sister came in from Canada, and her aunt came in about 2 months ago, and we went out to the Big Texan and had a nice meal out there. So it's only been a couple months.
That's another place that does merchandise really well, too.
Oh, yes. The Big Texan, those are smart people over there.
Yeah.
Bobby Lee, he's
Absolutely.
got it going on.
Okay, so that concludes the 8 straight questions. I like to close by asking my guests to endorse something. So what's one thing you would like locals to know about or to experience?
Well, other than endorsing the sod poodles, which I'm going to do because it's my business and I want to do that, and I want to endorse it because of the way we do things. Everything we do is centered towards the fan. You asked a question, I meant to come back to it, and I'm sorry I forgot about it. But when you mentioned things we're proud of, obviously our reaction to COVID was really important, and I thought it was great for the community and great for our staff, and there was no losers in that. The thing I'm probably most proud of since we've been here in 2023, that's the year we came out with calf fries. Mm-hmm. And again, we pushed the envelope every single year. We came out with calf fries, but at the end of that season, Major League Baseball, in our conference, every year we have a conference with all the Major League clubs, all the minor league clubs. There was 3,500 people in the room. They named Amarillo Sod Poodles as the #1 minor league organization in the country. And that's not winning and losing. That has nothing to do with baseball. This is
just
an
organization. Yeah.
That's probably the thing I'm most proud about as an organization, because that's not just Tony Ensor. That means our corporate partnership team is the best. That means our group sales team is the best. Our season ticket sales team is the best. The people that serve our food at our concession stands are the best. The people that clean our restrooms on a nightly basis, the people that park the cars or sell tickets, or our ushers, our ticket takers, our fun zone people, our fans, our season ticket holders, our partners. That in order to win the best organization in the country, everything has to be clicking. So I want to pay tribute to them and our community because they're the ones that made this thing work, and it's still working. I feel great about the last five seasons, 6 years. Mm-hmm. But I am so enthused about the next 5 because I think we're just scratching the surface. I think there's so much more we're going to be able to do. So I'll endorse our people and our fans.
Okay.
That's who I'll endorse. But other than that, I do have a favorite sushi place.
Okay. What's your favorite sushi place?
Sushi House. Right there in Wolfland Village.
Yep.
Craven and his wife are just amazing people. It's the best sushi I've had. I've had sushi in Hawaii, in New York, in places where there's large bodies of water, California. The sushi you get at Sushi House is better than you get it in those places.
Okay. That's a really solid endorsement.
Absolutely.
All right. Tony Ensor, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Jason, thank you. And let's not wait 5 years to do this again.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
And that concludes the episode. I want to say thanks to Tony for the interview. You can follow the Sod Poodles, of course, at sodpoodles.com. You don't need me to tell you that. Thanks to Storybridge and Panhandle Plains Historical Museum for supporting the podcast, and to Angelina Marie for editing every week. Thank you for listening. Hey Amarillo exists on a weekly basis because of listeners like you and the local people who support it financially through patreon.com/Hey Amarillo. Hey Amarillo's executive producers include Patrick Burns, Jason Burr, Katie Linger, Corey Burns, Josh Wood, Wes Reeves, Cindy Graham, and Barbara and Jim Witten. This has been episode 389. My name is Jason Boyette, and I'll see you next week.